Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. We're going to wait just a little bit, a couple of minutes for everyone to join, and we're going to start this webinar. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. We're going to start in a couple of minutes, just 1 to 2 minutes. People are joining. Okay, let's go. So first, thank you everyone for joining today for this webinar. It's a pleasure to have you. So the topic for today is going to be SaaS survival guide, so CFO strategies for pricing and inflation in economic downturns. Basically, we got a lot of questions from prospects and clients of how this particular economy that we had for a few months now is impacting the way that they can renew and buy new SaaS products. So we thought that as we have a few ideas, we can share with them and share with you today during this webinar. So my name is Agathe. I am the lead IT buyer at Willy. I've been with the company for over a year and a half now. On a daily basis with my team, we manage the renewal, the renegotiation, and also new projects for our clients. And I've been a consultant in IT procurement for a few years before joining Willy. If I just take the time to let you know a little bit about Willy, who we are and what we are doing. So we are a procurement as a service platform, which means that we bring a SaaS to companies. We are working with many companies between 60 to 2,000 employees on average. And what's happening with them is that usually they don't have any procurement processes or any procurement team within the company at the moment. And also they are affected by the SaaS pricing opacity, which means that within SaaS is a very passionate area, I think. I love working in SaaS industry, but it's also very hard to know when you have a good deal, because sometimes 10% with an editor can be a very huge discount. And sometimes when you get 45% of discount with another editor, it might be very low and you could have gone very far. So it's always hard to know where you stand, if what you got are good conditions, the best condition. And also it's a very active market where there is a lot of competitors, a lot of new features, a lot of new products, and it's very hard to follow and to keep up with everything. So what we bring to our clients is really procurement as a service platform, where they can have a list of all of their SaaS to know if there is any redundancy, if they can area for improvement in optimization, and also they have access to buyers where that can work with their team directly to manage all of their SaaS. So today's discussion and what we are here today. So the idea is really to navigate SaaS pricing challenges. Sorry. So during inflation and when you want to optimize the number of licenses you may have, you may face some difficulty with vendors because there is just mechanical things that you can use, but we might affect the price per unit that you will have. So our idea here is to address inflation and mitigating price increase for the SaaS, and also how to secure better pricing while reducing SaaS license volume according to your needs. Just so we're gonna go across all those topics, and at the end you can ask some questions if there is something that were unclear. If you want to go deeper on the subjects, I would be more than happy to answer those questions. So that's going to happen at the end of the webinar. There is a little chat where you can just ask for questions if you may have some. And so that would be my pleasure to answer those questions afterwards. So the first topic that we decided to explore today with you is like very trendy. It's about inflation. So what are the tips and good practices that you can do on a daily basis to consider and to mitigate during your SaaS renewal? So basically what we saw is that over the last 12 months or so, there is a shift. Before that, we were into a very increasing economy where startups and scale-ups, they were growing and they were purchasing more and more licenses. It was like a very fast environment. It was very easy to negotiate within those conditions because you were bringing more business to the editors, and they were willing to get your business and to give you better conditions if you were going to increase by 100, 200, 300 licenses on year-to-year basis. But now it changed a lot. Everything changed basically. And the majority of SaaS suppliers on the market, they increased prices from 5 to 35% on average. So that's going to be like an average 15%, but it goes from 5 to 35%. 5 is going to be like the minimum of what you can get basically. And some editors went to something around 35, 40% during the last few months, which is a huge impact on renewals. So they use like two kind of increase systems. They can either go publicly by changing the price on the website, or in secret by reducing the allocated discount of the current customers. So it's like two different mechanisms. During an economic downturn, the price will be affected durably. And after years of growth and double-digit performance, everything's changed basically. And so the SaaS vendors, they were incentivized, their sale on upsale and on cross-sale. And they will have trouble meeting the objectives now because everything is changing. And during such a period, the clients are looking after reducing their price, reducing their spend, and are more conservative in their purchasing strategy. So that's why they're increasing the price to compensate with this change. So it's really mechanical. In order to maintain the growth and the revenue, they will use mechanical levers such as price increases. And a part of the price increase shared by the vendors is legitimate. Basically, it's a reaction to cost increases such as labor, such as energy, hosting, for example. It increased a lot the cost related to hosting the softwares. But such increases are usually followed and framed by the Syntec index. That's something that is specific to France. It's not available in other countries, but that's a very good reference to follow because this index is used in France and it serves as a benchmark for determining salary growth increase based on changes in different economic factors. So basically, if you follow this index, it is available on internet, you can have a reference for what is fair as an increase. And at the moment, the increases should be around 4.24% in comparison with 2022. So that's a bit different from what we saw from 5 to 35%. There is a huge gap in this. If I'm digging into like what are the tips and good practices that you can use on a daily basis to just try to mitigate these effects and try to mitigate the price increases that are announced by all those editors. So during inflation, inflation can affect startups and scales up and all companies when they start to purchase and renew the software. When faced with an economic downturn and increased prices, from software suppliers, CFO can consider this kind of tips. So first, you can do budget and cost analysis. That's really the starting point. You can start by conducting a thorough budget analysis and cost review. So the idea is just to identify areas where costs can be reduced or optimized and prioritize spending on critical software applications that are directly contribute to your company and to the business operation and the growth of your company. So that is where you need to start in order to have a clear and complete view of your SaaS stack and understand how you spend and where you can optimize stuff. Because maybe when everything was fine and good, you were buying a lot of different softwares, but are not really well used, very low impact on your growth, and are really used only by one people, two people, something like that. So maybe you can have a look at those kind of softwares and decide to cut them, basically. Or sometimes this will have a huge effect on your budget, and you can really try to focus and negotiate the top 3, top 10 SaaS software that you maybe never negotiated before, but that's really time to go and start ahead. The second tip will be to evaluate existing software. So the idea here is really to assess your current software stack and identify any redundant or underutilized application. So you need to consider consolidating or replacing such softwares with more cost-friendly, cost-effective alternatives that can offer similar functionalities. The idea is not to cut functionalities or to decrease the let's say the effectiveness of your software stack, but really to try and track all the little tools, all the little features that are not used, that are in your stack SaaS, that were maybe used before, that were a good idea 2 or 3 years ago, but are not effective right now within your budget. So for example, if you realize that the marketing team is using a project tool and the IT team is using another one, maybe there could be an area of improvement here by switching the entire company on one tool. So you can have one contract for all of your tools, for all of your project tools, and you will be able to improve the price per unit and have a more secure environment for all your team, and also improve collaboration within one specific tool. And that's what we see a lot of our clients have, really like different tools that are using across different teams, because it made sense at some point, and maybe you don't have the visibility of all the tools that are used, but during this kind of times, it's really useful to try and switch to one specific tool that is the main tool for your company. Also, you can and you have to negotiate with suppliers. That's, I think, the very basic thing to do. So engage in negotiation with software suppliers. It might seem counterintuitive, but in an economic downturn, vendors be more willing to provide discounts or flexible pricing options to retain existing customers or to secure new ones. So that's maybe what could be counterintuitive, but even in those kind of times, it can be very useful and it can be very effective for you to try and negotiate with them, because they don't want you to churn. It's a very bad indicator for them. So they will be willing to give you more discounts if you come to them with some demands and that are achievable on their side. You can also explore the possibility of long-term contracts with fixed price to mitigate the impact of future price increase. Obviously, ideally, you would have done this a year ago to secure your prices for maybe 2 to 3 years during those very high increases of price everywhere. But if you don't have done it on all of your contracts, it might be a good idea to do it on specific tools where you feel secure about having a multi-year contract. Because if you don't feel secure, it can have like a huge price for you to commit with vendors on this kind of thing on the long term, if your needs may change over the time. And the fourth one would be to prioritize scalability and flexibility. That's a very important one. You need to evaluate the software options that are scalable and flexible, allowing you to adjust licenses or future needs based on your evolving needs. So this approach enables you to start with essential functionality and expand gradually, so it will minimize the upfront cost. Especially important when you start with a new tool. Maybe you don't need to go with like everything at the first time, but just build gradually and buy module by modules and make sure that everything is good, everything is working well, and then add more users and more functionalities over the time. So for example, you can work on ramping up and ramping down options based on users or volume forecasted to adjust the terms of the contract with pre-negotiated prices. So that's an important one. This is, for example, what we did with one of our clients for an e-signature tool. For the renewal, we were able to really negotiate all the ramping up. So they were able to start with a lower commitment and then build upon it and grow within the contract with very attractive prices that were pre-negotiated. A few other tips. So you can also leverage vendor partnership. So that's also something that you can work on. If your company has established partnership or relationship with specific software vendors, so for example, if you've been a loyal client for a few years, you can leverage those connections to negotiate better deals or discounts. You can highlight the value of you bring as a loyal customer and explore the possibility of preferential pricing. So that's the fact that you won't be on the what do you call that? Sorry, on the shelf pricing, but you're gonna get like preferential pricing with discounts and maybe gratuity and something like that. You can really work into a specific partnership with those kind of vendors. And as said before, churn is a very bad indicator for them, for editors, especially in an economic downturn, as they will avoid it at any cost. So you can ask for some stuff. Also, conduct ROI analysis. Before making any purchase decision, conduct a thorough return on investment analysis. You can consider different factors, such as the software potential impact on the productivity of your teams, the efficiency gains, the cost savings, and also the revenue generation. So this is important to make this analysis, and it will help you make informed decisions and prioritize software purchase based on the expected long-term benefits. You can conduct those analysis with the editors, and if you haven't done it once you bought the tool for the first time, you can do it at renewals with them and ask them, okay, I need to know what is the ROI on this tool. And if you feel that the ROI is very low and that you're spending a lot of money but do not get a very efficient tool in return, you can start exploring other options. And that's another tool you can use. It's to stay informed and explore alternatives. I'm step one, but I'm going to come back to the other one. So you really need to stay informed and explore all of your alternatives, because as we said, software is a very dynamic area, and you can continuously monitor the market of new softwares offering new features, new products, emerging technologies, and competitive pricing. So you have to stay informed about the market trends and explore alternative solutions that can help you identify the most cost-effective options that you get and make better informed position and decisions. And this is one of the most effective levers, I think, that you can use, is really to keep your option open and have knowledge of about the competition and what you could expect, and to get a better deal at renewal. Another one, it was just the one before, is to seek alternative on financing options. So it could be, for example, leasing or subscription-based software purchases. This approach can help you spread costs over a longer period, making it more manageable during an economic downturn. The idea here is really to smooth the cost and avoid upfront payment. You don't want to prepay anything. You just want to smooth your payment over the term of the contract. And for this, you can negotiate payment terms and aim for monthly or maybe quarterly invoicing. And for new project, and that's an important one, with a build period, so where you buy a new product and you have like implementation of, let's say, 3-6 months, whatever, it is important to negotiate the invoicing calendar and make sure that the services are really smooth over the period. But you can also ask to start paying for the license at the go live, not before, not once, because they're going to have an environment, like a build environment, and sometimes they're really trying to make you pay the licenses once they start working on this environment. But it's really important for you to try as much as possible to pay the licenses at the go live. And the last one is to plan ahead of renewal deadline. So timing is key within those kind of renewals. If you want to show vendors that you have options, you have to meet with them 2 to 4 months ahead of the renewal deadline, not the end of the contract. It can be like 30 to 60 days before the end of the contract, and you have to meet with them 2 to 4 months before that. And make sure you don't close the deal too too close to the deadline, because then they gain power over the time. So yeah, you have to manage it all in advance. So yeah, that's it about the first topic about inflation, how to deal with renewal during this time. So remember that in a challenging economic time, it's crucial to strike a balance between cost-cutting measures and ensuring the availability of essential software tools that drive business growth. You can't just cut everything. You really have to make sure that what you keep within your SaaS stack is what will make your company grow over the time. So yeah, I hope this was quite clear. If you have any question, don't hesitate to put it in the chat box. I will answer it at the end. And now we can jump on the other topic, which was decreasing environment. In the decreasing environment, so basically an economic downturn as we are living now, what is the strategies to secure better pricing while decreasing the volume of licenses? Basically, the beginning of the reflection is very easy. Is that sometimes during an economic downturn, companies are looking for more profitability by reducing their spending. For some of them, it can go as far as laying off employees, but there are some first steps that can be very efficient for you. And it starts with making sure that your SaaS stack is not too big for your current and your future use. Because sometimes what we see is that you purchase maybe like 200 licenses a year ago, but you never had more than 150 or 160 people using the tool. So you really have to make sure that at renewal, you come back on a clear base. But this kind of effect, this kind of decreasing in terms of users can have an effect on the price per unit. So we're going to try to see how we can mitigate this and still have work on the price per unit. So a few tips and a few good practices that you can use also on a daily basis while renewing your SaaS tools. The first one would be to assess your usage and needs. As we did before, it's really important to review your current usage of the SaaS application and determine if you can optimize it further. So you have to identify if there is some unused licenses or area where the software is underutilized, maybe some modules that have never been used, but you bought them, but it's never used within the SaaS stack. So that's really something that you have to make sure of before getting in contact with the vendor. And this analysis will provide you with the insight to negotiate a more tailored and cost-effective pricing structure. For strategic and company-wide tools, it can be useful also to send a quick form to the identified users to ask them how often do they use the tool and on what purpose do they use it. So that we give you very insightful information. And with that information and the analysis that you made of it, you can plan the first meeting with the editor for a business review where they can share data on usage. And with these two kinds of data, you will really have a full view of how is the tool used at the moment and if there is some area for improvement. Second one, you can consolidate your software stack. So the idea here is to evaluate your overall software stack and identify any overlapping or redundant application, as we spoke before. So you need to consider consolidating multiple tools into a single SaaS platform or suites that can fulfill multiple functionalities. For example, there is multiple example on this one, but one that can speak to you is like, for example, if you have Google Suite and also Zoom. So there is a redundancy here because Zoom is a video tool and you also have Google Meet within your suite. And so maybe you can cut one or the other. Also with Notion and Confluence, for example, for like information on the company, like the tools are doing the same thing. So maybe you're using them at the moment, both of them, so you can also cut some of them. The third tips will be to request a customized pricing plan. So engage in direct discussion with a SaaS vendor and express your desire to reduce the volume of license while maintaining the relationship. So you can request, for example, a customized pricing plan that aligns with your reduced usage. Vendors may be open to providing more flexible options to accommodate your needs. The key here is to really explain your situation, where you come from, the usage of the tool and the project, and to also to project vendors into the relationship to demonstrate interest in you to the solution and how you see the solution evolving within your company in the future. So if you project them, but also explain them what's happening at the moment and when you need to reduce, they might be more flexible in price and give you better discounts to accommodate you. And the fourth one would be to explore alternative licensing models. So we spoke about it a little bit before. You know that some vendors, they offer flexible licensing options such as per user, per feature, or usage-based, volume-based pricing. You have to know which one would be better fitting with your needs. So maybe at the moment you're paying per user, so let's say 200 users. But if you switch to another model, for example, the number of requests that were sent or something like that, you can save a lot. And so you need to explore all the alternatives about licensing before making a choice, and maybe switch from one to another at renewal, because maybe user-based was what was fitting you 2 years ago, but it's not anymore because you've grown a lot of users, but you still have maybe the same number of requests. So you have to really look at that and make sure that it's fitting you. And then you can demonstrate willingness to commit. So if you are able to express your willingness to commit to a longer-term contract or to provide assurances that you will continue using the software despite the decrease in licenses, vendors often value long-term commitments and may be more open to give you better pricing in return for your loyalty. You can, for example, ask for 7 to 10% additional discount per year of commitment. So even if you reduce the number of licenses, the price per unit may increase a little bit, but if you commit to a 2 years, 3 years contract instead of a 1 year contract, you can really mitigate all those effects and get a better price per unit in the end. So multi-year contracts are very valuable to vendors, and they are very effective levers to obtain better prices. There is a lot of examples on this topic also, but I have one in mind. It's with one of our customers recently, and with Zendesk, with like a quite expensive solution. We were able to get better prices and to negotiate the prices, also to give more flexibility to the contract, only by adding 1 year commitment to what they used to have. And so we were able to affect a lot of different areas of improvement, especially on the price. Even if we didn't add any more users, we were able to get flexibility and also those kind of prices because we committed to 1 more year contract. And benchmark prices, so that's also a very insightful tool. You can conduct market research and gather pricing information from competing vendors that offers similar solutions. And you can use this data to leverage during the negotiation to highlight that you have alternative options. You know what are the practices on the market, and so vendors may be more motivated to give you a better discount and to provide a more competitive pricing to retain your business within their company. Finally, or like quickly, you can also consider bundling or add-on services. So if you have to lower the number of licensing on specific products, maybe in order to get better prices, or at least to mitigate the effect of the decreasing, you can consider bundling or some other services. So you can inquire about additional services, features, or support that the vendor can provide as part of the package. And while bundling those services together, you may be able to negotiate a better overall deal that adds value beyond the license count. In this case, you can make sure to have a clear idea of the individual price of each module and user. So when you want to maybe decrease those kind of module next year, you won't be affected too much. Then you can also seek multiple bids, and that's also a very important thing. It takes time, but it's very efficient. If your SaaS vendor is not willing to accommodate you with the reduced license needs and offer favorable pricing, you can consider reaching out to alternative tools in the market and solicit multiple bids, multiple order form, and negotiate with different suppliers. So it's basically a request for proposal that you do on multiple, like maybe 2 to 3 vendors on the market, and the competitive landscape can provide you with additional leverage in negotiating better terms. You might find a better tool and go and switch suppliers, or it might also just give you insightful tips to negotiate better with your current suppliers, and you won't have to change the tool because that's also a cost in time and stuff, but it can really help you to get better prices. And the last tip will be to leverage non-increasing related options. So it's basically to put on the table different options and creative leverage. So such as marketing actions. So you can offer them to create articles, blog posts, do customer review, do reference call that will help them grow into their business and gain more business overall without affecting your price. So that's basically you give something that is not related to an increase of licenses or other, but you give them really insightful and effective offer that can bring you back some leverage on the price. So yeah, that's all of the different kind of tools and practices I can use to effectively negotiate and renegotiate your contracts. And remember, successful negotiation really depends on effective communication. So understanding your own requirements first, and also building a mutually beneficial relationship with the SaaS vendor. You have to know where they can go. You have to know what will work with them in order to offer something that is insightful and effective for them. So, in conclusion, I've shared a lot of tips, a lot of information. I hope it was not too much. Today, we explore different options and good practices to mitigate the effect of inflation on your SaaS renewal, and how even when we are decreasing the volumes, you could secure better pricing. So the main area of an effective renewal are within, I will say, 3 to 4 steps. The first one would be to take your time, plan the renewal in advance, and contact vendors 2 to 4 months prior to the renewal deadline. Here, the timing is really key. Also, really to know your tool stack and the current usage in order to better plan and avoid redundant tools. So you have to make the analysis, spend the time to really understand what you're using, how you're using it, and if there is some optimization possible within your SaaS stack. The third one would be to explore your options. More than ever, you really need to know what's on the market, what are the benchmarks, what are the trends. If there is maybe a more effective tool on the market, you can ask for some quotes and ask for some demonstration, and conduct a benchmark and a request for proposal will give you really leverage during the renewal. And the last one will be to negotiate with the vendor, ask for what you need, and communicate about your current situation in order to find an agreement with them that works for you. So that's it. Do you have any question? Is there something that you would like to ask, something that maybe not clear? I already see one question. What is the source of the 15% average raise, and which scope does it concern? Oh, that's a good question. So the source is the research that we conducted over the last few months. As we're working with plenty of clients, we've been able to be working on renewals on all the main editors on the market. And so it's an average raise that we see, and that the editors communicated with us prior to some of those renewals, some of those increase. So it's really ranged from small increases, such as 5% on some products, or to big increases, such as what Google did in April. On some of the products, they increased by 35%, which has a huge impact. But basically, all of the editors are increasing their prices at the moment. And yeah, the average will be around 15%. I have another question. What are some of the best ways to leverage vendor partnership to negotiate better deal on SaaS? That's also a good question. So basically what we see is that within those kind of economic downturns, usually vendors and account executives, their objectives were on cross-sale and upsale, which is more difficult to get within those kind of terms. And so you can act on different levers, and one of them, which is not in like a, it's not about like making more license on spending more on the tool. It's more evaluating more the relationship, because as I said, churn is like the worst thing for them. They don't want you to churn. They really want to keep their clients, and so you have to talk about the relationships, the loyalty that you had, the fact that you've been client for a few years now, how you increased, how you went from maybe one tool to a multiple tool. I'm thinking about some tools like Salesforce, where you maybe started with only one kind of a license and maybe 10 license, and now we are there. So you have really to see and to spoke about every little details of your relationship, and how you can make sure that this relationship is going to go again over the years, because they really want to make sure that even if you're decreasing maybe a little bit the licenses this year, you will still be a client in 1 or 2 or 3 years. And so that's really something you can talk about with them, show them your roadmap, your projection about the tool, how it's going to be, how is it embedded within your product, for example, or something like that. Really give them token of how the tool is appreciated internally, and how you want to continue this partnership. And one of the good things also, what could help them gain more business, is really to do some communication with them. So it can be like blog posts, it can be maybe a webinar where you can be invited as a client and give some feedback. I know that this is very valuable things for the vendors. It asks you for some time, but if you're sure about the product, if you really are convinced that it's a good product, this is something that you can put as a leverage, and it will be used to apply more discount, for example. And one other question: how can CFO ensure that their software stack is scalable and flexible enough to meet the needs of their business as it grows? Yes, that's definitely something that we do see a lot with our clients. For example, they've been ordering a specific number of licenses, and when they're at renewal, they discover that they haven't been using all of their licenses, or maybe if it's like volume-based, they have been using a very much lower volume. So the idea is really to give flexibility to your contract and to commit on a peculiar number, but give you the option that if you grow within the contract, if you need to add more licenses, if you need to add more volumes, more signature, if I'm taking back the example of the e-signature tool, that you can do it with your pre-negotiated tool. And what is more difficult to do, but is very important, is also if you decrease, if you realize that you don't have the use of all of your licenses, or if you realize that what you forecasted is not going to be met within the term of the contract, you can also decrease it, and how you can decrease it. So that's really something you have to think about during the renewal. You have to make sure that every options, like the best one increasing, all the like bad ones decreasing, how are they going to affect, and are you going to be stuck with a contract that will not possibly meet your needs in 6 or 9 months? And that's especially when you do a multi-year contract. For a contract for 2 or 3 years, you have to be very careful on this point, because you can really be stuck with a contract that costs you a lot of money and doesn't meet your needs anymore, and that could be very painful for you. And one last question, sorry, and I think we can finish there. What to do if your suppliers reject your negotiation? That's that's a good point. Hopefully that doesn't happen too much because you are in a partnership, so you are able, and it's okay for you to ask for what you need. At renewal, this is definitely the best time to ask for all of those things and to really take the time to sit down with your supplier and to speak about the past partnership and to project together on the following months of the partnership. In case that, for example, you need to negotiate the price per unit, you need to go from 44 euro per user to 40 euro, let's say, and that's something that your supplier cannot meet. They refuse. They cannot do anything about that, maybe because they raise their prices and they cannot lower your price per unit because that's not something that they do anymore. The idea here is really to get creative, to know, okay, you cannot do that. That's not something that is available for you, but what else can you do? Maybe they can add some users for free. Maybe you can have another month of the contract for free. Maybe you can have add-ons for free. Maybe you can have support. There is always something you can do, basically. The idea is really to understand what the supplier can do and to really understand where they can go, because maybe the price per unit is not the way, but maybe there is other ways that will be less impactful for them, but will still be a very good negotiation because it will affect your price per unit in the end, in a beneficial way, of course. Well, thank you very much for all those questions. That was quite interesting. I hope that it was insightful for you. I don't want to say anything wrong, but I think that we will be able to send you the PowerPoints after the webinar so you can review it. If you have any more questions, something that was not clear, something you would like to talk about, do not hesitate to contact us. That would be our pleasure. It's always great to speak about those kind of topics. And I wish you all a very great day. Thank you for joining again, and see you later, hopefully. Goodbye.